Well, although of Cardian ancestry, my Italian is too poor to address distinguished public in this language, so please do accept my apologies on speaking in English. Well, we are moving into a more continental environment, so we are all aware of the situation, topographical setting of Emona. That is the most southern part of Sava River alluvial fan, late Pleistocene, and that produces quite well underground water. If you are speaking about the ideas behind putting this urbs quadrata, the real orthogonal Roman example of urbs quadrata in this area in the Lubiana gates. So this is the major plan from 2012, built upon the evidence collected by late Ludmila Plesnica-Getz, and we are continuing her work in the Lubiana area. So this chart is mainly producing and illustrating only the water infrastructure, more or less relating to wells, to the fine spots of the pipes, lead pipes, and to the poorly known early phases of the communal infrastructure. So this is some sort of schematic drawing of two insulae and corresponding decumani, and that knowledge is something between 2014, because much new evidence came to light into that period, and I will point your attention that these cloacae, we all thought that they were primer ones, are not primer ones. They were Claudian cloacae, and we were all wondering what happened in the late Augustan period when the Emona first phase was built. And I will draw this new evidence upon photographs of discovered and documented situation after 2012. So this is the Shumi in the north, just next to the northern gate of Emona. This chart is only illustrating the earliest, very late Augustan phase. So we now think that the first building phase of Emona, civilian phase, is dated somewhere between 4 AD and 14 AD. So something middle-late Augustan period. But before that, we have at least 3 military phases, not a legionary camp, but some sort of training camps, some sort of camps probably defending the building site of Emona. At the right side, we have illustration of the barrel, quite usual barrel well, usual of course for the military environment in the Rhenan area. So here are two wells of famous lager from Oberaden, and here is the Emona well, quite similarly built, right at the next, in the later phase, what will be in the later phase, the entrance into the insula. So this is older than building, of course, of the first phase. And there are only the imprints of the barrels remain, and no traces of wood, just imprints. The problem with the early communal infrastructure is that if you have at one side barrel wells collecting water from the 2 or 3 meters underground, then there is a problem if you have latrines quite next to them. So this is the major question for early Emona. How did they combine wells and latrines deposited and flowing into the same sediments? So this question remain, but it is and it is relevant also for the next phase, because our major question is that the cloacas don't function without aqueductus. So that is the next site, Nuuk National University Library, a second planned building. We have here 4 phases before the building of the insula, and I will point your attention to the wooden phase of buildings which are similar in orientation and in extent as later stone-built insula, and the very quick formation of this space is illustrated by this well, which cut through this wooden barracks and was cut by the wall of the first building phase, and that could occur in 5 months or maybe in 2 years. So this development of the early Emona went very quickly, but I will limit myself only to the wells. So this is the major public well of the cross-section of the Decumanus F and Cardo H. This is the largest discovered well in Emona. It is so perhaps it's best that we see the cross-section. It is 6 meters deep, very well preserved. We excavated only the interior, not the exterior, because it's still waiting for the project to begin. And this complete well was destroyed and filled with tegule, probably from its roof, in the early Claudian period. So it didn't function in the early Claudian period, and that is why they think that this period marks the complete renovation of Emona. We don't know why they did it, but it seems that in the early Claudian period the aqueductus was constructed. So the tradition, the historical tradition and the ethnographical records put the Fons Aquae to the Slatek region some 6 kilometers northwest from Lubiana, where the carbonate hinterland is situated, while the other hills, which are surrounding the very center of Emona, or present-day Lubiana, are permocarbonian, and these layers don't produce good water, but we all are aware that the best water comes from the carbonate layers. So the Romans obviously exploited this area near Kamna Gorica. This is this valley. This is the old historical tradition that it was a Roman spring, Rimski students in Slovenian language, and this is the spot where in 2015 one section of the aqueductus, or possible aqueductus, was discovered. We think it is a very small or short section of pressure line, probably terracotta cubes in the vault with concrete vault. It is a classical hydraulic mortar, and the direction is points that they chased the shortest possible route to the foothills of the Shishinsky Hrib, where they can maintain the elevation, because that is why I think that this pressure line, because the inclination is only 0.8 per mile. So the high difference is 14 meters, just 14 meters between the Slatek spring and the western gates of Emona. Why we think western gates? This is of course the Augusta Praetoria, quite similar situation. We think that the best solution for the Romans was to build some sort of substructio or arcuature leading to one of the towers of the western gates, Porta Decumana, excavated during the Second World War. So these are the famous lead pipes from Emona, one of the largest in the 10th region of Italia, excavated in 75 at the Grigorčičeva Street, just next to the western gates of Emona. So the famous seals, I will show the details later. Another something over 30 pieces of lead pipes were discovered, and these are the major calibers. The height 22 centimeters, and the circumference is about 55, just classical Frontinus measures. So this is very unusual seal, of course, tria nomina, fecit, and accompanied by a dolphin. When we hadn't had the isotopic analysis performed, we thought, okay, great, it is a Cartagonova typical seal, but we were wrong. The composition was made by the REM, Kurt Engelhorn Centrum in Maihan, so we trust, of course, their measurements. The measurements were taken for 2 samples from these pipes with the dolphin seal and Lucius Salerius Rufus name. So they said that it is no Cartagonova, no Germania, no Southwest Spain, no known Balkan deposits, but they are inclined to believe that lead deposits in the Balkan region seems to be the most likely candidates, but it is still an unexplored region. So that is one question remains, where this lead is coming from. And this was the situation before 2015 excavation. We were all aware that major cloacae are running under the Decumani from west to the east, and their outflows lead to Ljubljanica River. So these are classical built cloacae. These were researched by Ljudmila Pesničar Getz and her collaborators. Quite usual inclinations or gradients of the bottom, of the top. So that is no particular case. For the northern Italy, quite classic example. But there, this question remained. We saw that these cloacae were built from the building layer for the second phase walls. So this large trench obviously destroyed everything what was possible built there before those cloacae. And we see this clearly, this is the building layer for the first phase, and we see here commences the trench for the building of this cloacae. We all believe that it is a cloaca of the first phase. Again, here at this point, this is the first pedological horizon, and this level, walking level, floor level, is more or less something between 5 and 15 AD. Here, I just point here, the fields for the cloaca contain Tiberius coins and Implanta pedis seals on the terra sigillata, and the first layers after the construction of the cloaca, Gaius coins, Gaius and Claudius coins. So this is quite good dated layers. But the walls of first phase had their passages for these small channels coming, or the third or second order coming from the insula. But where is the main infrastructure, main conductor, main channels for their acceptance? And here we see that this is a second phase channel, which is built together with the cloaca, but they had to cut through the wall of the first phase of the insula. This is a facade wall, and they had to cut it through and then rebuild the wall above it. And then the excavation of the Slovenska Street 2 years ago, there we discovered what was the case. And this slide, the next slide, will show exactly what happened. There was a first main infrastructure. Obviously, it was some sort of inadequate. And then the cloaca of the second phase of the Claudian period cut through these cesspits. Cesspit, which were collecting the sewer from the north and from the south, and were built exactly at the spot of the later cloaca. So this stratigraphical situation is quite clear. Here is the southern part of the major Slovenska Street. We are speaking about the main Cardo Maximus, and we here see the the primary channel of the first phase built completely different as the second phase cloacae and coming from the forum area, and were then destroyed in the second phase, in the Claudia phase, by this secondary channel. Thank you very much for your attention.